Today in Inside Craft Show, we're going to show you what it's like to use GH5 as a...
What's up with those glasses?
Well, I lost my...
You look like a Casey Neistat wannabe.
Today in Inside Craft Show... we're going to talk about using the GH5 as a B cam, mixing it up with lots of different other stuff in a commercial project. How well does it do? We'll see. Like we said, today on Inside Craft Show, we're actually going to talk about using the GH5 with multiple cameras. Does it play nice? Does it integrate well? Does it work well? Does it have friends? Does the GH5 have friends? Well, I believe it does. And Red is one of them, so is GoPro. But the interesting thing, before we jump into that, let's talk about stylistic approach, because there's a couple of things that I think are very important. One, when we see GoPro, 90% of the time, maybe even higher, 95% of the time, we know it's GoPro. We've accepted that look. We embrace that look and know what it is. So the challenge with GoPro is always like making the footage clean up to look good, to match as close you can, Red or GH5 or anything else you're working with. Even on bigger features, you mix in that shot. So sometimes you cut the number of those down. We like to use GoPro on this particular project. We used it to kind of just give us different perspectives we've never seen before, right? To really jump in and let it explode, give us some cool angles, to really just add some energy to this brand anthem we did for a company called Revolution After Dustoff. Now, you've probably seen, and the link is up here, the Red versus GH5 footage we posted, where we mixed two of those together and kind of shown it. We've shown different clips from that, but this is a little more in-depth look at that project. It just got released, so I'm able to show that. If you actually want to see the entire anthem and or one of the other bits we did for them, you can head on over to the link. I'll post it here. It'll also be in the show notes for you to kind of see what they're doing. It's really cool concept what they have, but you can see the full-length videos and see, maybe you can figure out what all was Red, what all was GH5. Obviously GoPro's GoPro. That goes back to our stylistic approach. So when we went into this project, we really wanted to put some energy in and really take this really great concept that Dan and Maddie have and just blow it up, give it a lot of like chutzpah and power behind it, because they're so passionate about it. We couldn't help but want to illustrate that same passion. So let's jump in and take a peek at some of this footage. So as you've seen in the intro bit here, we start with a GoPro shot, and this is a hodgepodge of footage. It is everything from GoPro to Red to GH5, but the one thing that I found really exciting about it is we wanted to create this energy beat to kind of set up this stylistic. Here's how we're gonna roll into it. That's one of my favorite shots we've ever done, and kind of put it together. So that's that intro kicker. So now we're into another video, obviously starting with a GoPro type shot into other content. So this is the graded footage, and as you see, I'm just kind of moving about both videos. The crazy thing was we wanted to do these storytelling elements where we were showing flashbacks, and I don't like to just show photographs, and this is kind of a cool little pro tip. In this case, I thought it would be kind of cool to just have it like outdoor projected onto a fence, just to give that emotional vibe and kind of create that space. So that's what we did with those particular sequences. And then as you can see, we're kind of back and forth, just flowing around different locations. And again, it's all about mixing up the content. Then another portion of the video is instructional. So when we get to the instructional sections, this was a tremendous amount of using GH5 and Red really hand in hand as an A/B camera to put it together. So this section here is I took the exact same footage we just saw and I put them side by side. So on the right hand side of the screen is graded, on the left hand side of the screen is raw footage, and you can obviously see the color correction that went into it and tweaking it out that way to add more color, add more life, a little bit better skin tones, and mixing them up. The interesting thing for me is all of the GH5 footage, which these shots here are all GH5, the GH5 footage, aside from a little color tweaking, it was all shot on standard. We didn't use Vlog, we didn't use Cinelike, we went straight with standard because it matched the Red so well. Now there's a couple of tweaks we did inside of that with a little -2 gimmick, but that was to help back off some of the color. Knowing the way Jeff and I like to grade, we would need to tweak the skin tones a little more. But this is using the standard color profile, and it matches pretty darn well, and it's a good mix-up of Red, GH5, and of course GoPro, again being GoPro. What we wanted to do was just showcase this idea that the GH5 as a B cam, as a supplementary camera, and a workhorse one with a Red, with a GoPro is an excellent tool. So there's a section of us walking around this market. There's no way, the market gave us clearance to be there, but there was no way I was going to be able to take a Red into that market and film the kind of pieces we need to get, which were just like little notes, little ideas that Diet is part of his program. So we wanted to make sure we could capture those elements. GH5 did it. It gave me 4K. We shot 4K, 422, 10-bit, right? So we were getting really great quality images that frankly stand on their own. Had we been spending more time with the GH5, I probably would have shot even more on it, but it was, at that point, it was new to us. So we were just rolling into it. That said, I would actually argue for smaller projects being led by the GH5 and letting your Red or ancillary camera be a supplementary camera, simply because the use, the form factor, and the ability to tie all these pieces together works really well in putting a project down. Now, as a B cam, there's some approaches you have to take. I mean, you kind of need to understand that if it is going to be a real B cam, so two things could occur. One, you could split your production, right? So unit A, unit B, or shooter A, shooter B, or whatever you might be, if you have two cam ops. You might split it up and they go grab B-roll while you're getting an interview or something else. But I have no fear in that with the GH5 on that side of it, being able to capture those pieces, right? But it's an interesting technique, so you have to kind of think about what your other shots are going to be. So if they're gathering a certain amount of B-roll, you might want to lock in that camera to that B-roll. Meaning, let's say we are in the market, let's use that again, and we had the Red there, and maybe we shot an interview beforehand with the Red, but the majority of that, knowing it's an interview type piece, is going to be B-roll. Then we need to make sure that the B-roll is, if it's going to be the dominant element, it needs to be the dominant, it needs to be shot on the dominant camera at that point. So that's where you make a transition of, okay, cool, we're going to commit to the GH5 being the B cam, and we're going to let it go do its thing and get some really gorgeous, slow-mo works amazing on it. The 60p stuff is great at 10-bit, or at 8-bit, sorry, but the 60p stuff looks fantastic. So why don't we just grab those pieces, put them together, and let them flow through being the dominant source. Meanwhile, you know that your interview will be set up and you have to grade less. So the trick is, you know that your B-roll footage, right? This package that you're building is going to be supplemented rather by the Red. So it's not that you put the heavy horse out first. You make sure you reserve that back. Let the Red do its thing on the interview side. That said, I'd actually probably argue at the same time to shoot the interviews on the GH5. It is so much more of an interview-friendly camera. But again, if you're using like a C100, C300, or any of those other kind of broadcasts, VariCam would be an awesome one for that, right? Using those for your interview is great because you get a better long form factor. Red's not the best interview camera in my opinion. I think it can do it, but I prefer to use something that just has a better long play through. If you need to steal some shots and sneak some things through, GH5 is amazing because it just looks like you're shooting a still. And the trick we do is we fold the screen in and shoot through the eyepiece, and it just looks like you're taking a photo. And it's a great way to get some really quick content down and dirty guerrilla style that looks fantastic. Just approach using this camera as a B-roll camera, just approach it that way. Now, if you're in a primary principal production and you're on a bigger show, it has True 24. So from a film standpoint, I would have no issue using this as a secondary camera to get establishing shots, as long as there's not principal actors in it. I would get establishing shots, I'd get cutaways, I'd get title sequence elements. I would get everything possible I could without having to have the giant rig, unless I needed to match the lens perfectly. So if we were shooting on a master prime, I would probably try and argue to match that master prime, which will require a little finagling, and is an experiment we cannot wait to try on the GH5, which is putting the PL mount onto a GH5 and shooting some stuff just for us because we have our own projects coming up we want to use it on. GH5, absolutely fantastic for B cam. Just keep in mind when you use it as a B cam, you got to utilize it as a B cam and let it be, if you're going to be cutting in the same space, let it be the dominant factor and then let your other camera do its job. Or if you're going to be jumping around like we did in this content, then feel free to jump around because it'll match up evenly. If you have the time, energy, and money to shoot log, I say go for it. Have fun. If you understand how to shoot that stuff, great. Otherwise, red color and standard picture profile with a -2, -2, -2 looks pretty darn close. Just natural 1-to-1, and the grading element will cost even less time for you, which is more profit, which is the whole point of this, is beautiful pictures that make you money, or at least that's what we do for a living. Hopefully you do too. If you don't and you want to get there, there's a tip. Beautiful pictures that make you money, that cost you less time so you can get more clients. I know we're going to work on a low light test, like a really hardcore low light test, but here's the thing, and I apologize too for the interruptions in our constant daily uploads. We're in the process of moving. They expedited the timeline for us to leave the building. So suddenly Jeff and I and Dawson, thankfully, we're kind of in a position where we have to move a little bit quicker. And on top of all that, as life always works, we were relatively kind of calm. We had a good controllable workspace. We just landed 2 major clients for us. So now we're really buried. So I'm going to apologize for the past, and I'm going to apologize in advance that our once daily upload may slow down a little bit. And that said, we're going to try and focus on really quality elements. Maybe even give you guys some more behind the scenes looks of how we approach a project, pending the client lets us do so. But just to kind of explore that. So again, I apologize. I promise we will always give you good content. We'll try and be funny when we can. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, throw our name around.
Forget you, man. I'm out of here, you poser.